Hey everybody. I said I was going to try to do the transitional character follow-up video and then be moving into some fitness and exercise um, information and videos, which I'm really passionate about. Um, my fitness journey has added a lot to my life. It's taught me a lot of different lessons, mentally, spiritually, physically. It's awesome. So I want to share a lot about that too. But to wrap up the traumas topic, I think the last thing I said, oh yeah, I'm going to get the video done tonight or in the next week, and then I said, hey, maybe it'll be a month, and I actually think it's been over a month. I have been extremely busy. Um, but I have finally finished my NAMSA accredited certified personal trainer's license, and I want to start doing fitness stuff after this. But let me finish with the last part of the series in trauma that I had talked about, and I had mentioned transitional characters. So first of all, for a little clarity, what a transitional character is it's somebody in a story or somebody, basically a character, that has a major change happen at some point. Um, the the plumber quits being a plumber in a story and goes to school and changes their entire career, and now they're not a plumber anymore. So their whole life direction has changed from a choice or an event. So, and what happens, what we need to, or what I have focused on, what I would encourage other people to focus on, is to continue to be transitional characters for your genetic line or for your legacy, basically. And what I mean by that is, I I know a lot of people. For the longest time, and a lot of other individuals I know. Well, my grandparents did it this way, so I do it this way, and my parents did it that way, so I do it this way, and my kids are going to do it that way. And we're all going to do things the exact same way because that's how it needs to be done. Well, there's no room for growth or transitional character development when all you're doing is repeating the same thing generation after generation after generation. Now, for my story, particularly what I had said in the last video, I talked about my experience and what had happened to me in my relationship with my grandfather. And obviously, that is not a behavior that has been passed on, would be passed on. So I have already become a transitional character for my son and for his future children, just ensuring that that same abusive behavior won't happen. However, there's a lot of things that trail with us. Even though the physical abuse isn't transferred, the mental weight, the emotional weight, and the hurt from the trauma can still be transferred in the way that we communicate with our kids, whether we're dealing with our trauma so we're in a state of anger, or we're not dealing with our trauma so we're in a state of anger, or we're upset about this or that. And so we have to make sure that it's not only when we take on this sincere, and I mean it, it's a sincere role of making sure that trauma is not passed on to your kids so that they don't have to recycle all of the emotional hurt, all of the feelings, all of the self-doubt, all of the am I enough, am I loved. You don't have to pass any of that on. And that's not just by not physically, by let's say you've been physically abused. That's not done just by not passing on the physical abuse. That's done by healing yourself also and not passing on the mental and emotional abuse. So this is really a simple chart, a little simple thing that I drew, just a kind of an illustration to help people understand what I'm trying to talk about. So I filter blood in my nursing career as a dialysis nurse and doing all that. So really becoming a transitional character, if each line here is a generation and the circles are represented as traumas, and every generation we should pride ourselves on removing things that our family has struggled with to ensure that what we're handing down is healthy and it's whole. So I have really enjoyed taking on the responsibility and the stewardship or the ownership role of making sure what Aiden gets from me, physically, emotionally, and mentally as a dad, is far better than what I experienced to the best of my ability. So every generation, and this isn't something that my parents or anybody's parents can look at and go, oh man, well, I didn't do that great of a job. You did, hopefully, you did the best that you could to eliminate things to give your kids a clear path away from trauma, almost in a sense, evolving the family DNA, evolving the legacy and saying, these things should go forward and these things shouldn't go forward. I don't want my kids to deal with depression. So I'm not just going to fight it myself. I'm going to be very careful how I emotionally associate with depression with my kids. Now, there are situations where it's not a trauma and nobody's perfect. We all are human, and there's days we're going to do better and there's days that we're not going to do so good. But as long as our overall goal is to leave out the trash, leave out the garbage, and to continue handing down a legacy where the trauma and abuse and emotional thought patterns that associate with those kind of actions are removed, we're really creating a much, much cleaner, clearer path and launching pad for our kids and our future generations. So this last video that I'm making about traumas, I've shared with you emotional traumas, perspective traumas, behavioral traumas, traumas that we can't avoid that have been done to us. But like I said in my last video, if you live through it, you now are in power. And the best thing to empower the generation after you, to help them take their power back, is to make sure that we don't hand them any garbage that we've dealt with, because we don't want to just keep recycling things as life goes on. We want our kids to, and our family members and our legacy to go on in a way that we never had the ability to do. And I don't just mean that financially. Everybody always says, oh, I want my kids to go way further than I did. And we look at that through a scope of money, and which is actually paper, because the bills that we use aren't actual currency. We were told they're currency, but anyway. So the whole point is, make sure you're enriching the launching pad as much as you can by removing the stuff. I'm sure a lot of you had grandparents that did an amazing job, and they were a great filter. They removed a lot of trauma. Maybe there was somebody who was in a world war and there was PTSD and trauma and violence and anger, and then the next generation, some of it was cleared up or some of it was worked on and dealt with. So anyway, regardless of what the story is, regardless of what the trauma is, what the behavior is, what the feeling is, we have an obligation to allow every next generation to have a better chance. And we don't measure it just by money. I want my son to have the best, clearest emotional runway as a young man, because I didn't, because of what I experienced by my grandfather. So not only have I not passed on that behavior that was done to me, I'm desperately doing the best work that I can to ensure that I'm not still somehow associating my relationship with my son to the trauma that was done to me by another family member, because that also allows Aiden to move on, and my son move on, to not have to deal with a lot of the emotional things that I dealt with, and hopefully his kids and the kids after that. So anyway, the whole principle of being a transitional character is in a sense like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. You shall not pass, when he's talking to the big dragon there. And we should be determined to not allow certain things pass on to the next generation. So anyway, with that, guys, I'm really, really excited about getting a lot of fitness stuff out there. Like I said, got my certified personal trainer's license done. I'll probably keep visiting this if people ask questions or want to know more information. And honestly, I just like sharing stuff like this. When I get a thought or a feeling, or more healing comes into my life, or I learn more about myself, I just like sharing it. It's kind of my way to artistically express. Some people write, some people paint, some people dance, all kinds of stuff. I tend to be a talker. So anyway, I appreciate you guys letting me share more with you. Make sure you're being the best transitional character you can be, because you have a legacy that was handed down to you, and you want to clear all of that garbage and not hand it down to the next generation, not hand it down to your kids and to your grandkids. Set them free from the stuff that you had to deal with. Set them free from the things that burdened you as a young adult or as a child, or are burdening you today. Work on it so that it doesn't get handed down to the next group. And so anyway, I don't have much more to say about it. I just want to say thank you guys. I've really enjoyed expressing myself via these videos and YouTube, and some people have probably laughed and made fun of them. Other people I know who personally have messaged me and said they meant the world to them, and that they gained a lot from them. So regardless of what you think about it, I would argue that everybody should find a way to artistically express yourself, and always be pushing to hand the next generation the most trauma-free launching pad that we can. And with that, guys, we'll talk to you soon. I'll start more fitness. I'll be looking to start fitness content probably within the next month. So hopefully I can do it sooner than later. But anyway, blessings. I hope everybody has an awesome weekend, and become a transitional character for your family.